what would you say most people misunderstand about being an SLP?
I think it's like either one extreme or the other. So I feel like people who aren't familiar with our field don't understand the scope of our practice. So either they think it's super duper small and all we do is help kids with lisps, help them make the S sound, help them make the R sound, or they think it's everything. So I've had teachers, I'll say, "Oh, how is it going with their communication in the classroom?" And they'll say, "Can you work on letter learning? Can you work on identifying numbers?" Or they don't listen to anything, they have these behavioral issues, and sure, those are things that maybe we could pull into a session, but it's not within my scope of practice to develop a full behavioral plan or, teach letters, you know? So I think
Yeah.
it's either one extreme or the other. People think we do very little or people think we do everything under the sun. So it's important to kind of set a boundary and make a definition of what you are as an SLP, when you're interacting with somebody who's not familiar with the field.
Yeah, so when some teachers ask you to do things that might not be under your scope, is that something like, how do you deal with that? Because I feel like there would be a pressure to just be like, "All right, like, well, I'll try, let's see what happens." Like, do
Mhm.
you just say, "Sorry, that's not what I've been trained for?" Or how do you deal with that interaction?
Yeah, I think it's hard and it's something I'm still figuring out that will come with time. Because there are some crossovers. So some of my kids have trouble following directions because they have a receptive language delay. Or sometimes they have underlying behavioral issues. And those are things that we work on in sessions. We do work on transitioning and listening and things. But when a teacher asks me for something over the top, like a behavioral plan, I will tell them, I'll say, I'm willing to help. I'll make a visual. I'll work on following directions in sessions. Let's work on transitioning to and from speech and how we can help them transition to and from things in the classroom. But I make sure to never go beyond that, right? It's not my job to be in the classroom managing a
Mm,
child's behavior. So that's when I would refer, I'd say, hey, if you think they're really having a hard time, talk to the parent, talk to the district about some extra help, either a see it or counseling. Um, and so that's where I would kind of push them onto a different professional besides myself.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. A lot of SLPs or just therapists in general, OTs, PTs that I've spoken to have had some resources that are go-to for them, and the landscape of SLP social media is vast. I've found many guests on Instagram or TikTok, blogs, people that post material and resources that are either working cases currently as SLPs or maybe they're kind of just like retired but still creating content. Do you have any go-to sources that you look at on social media or online where you just kind of like either it's educational or entertaining or a combination of both?
Mhm. I would say I definitely use a lot of like educational resources. So I'll go to like Teachers Pay Teachers or Boom Learning, which is a
Mm,
virtual site. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll sort, all right, price low to high and see what I can get for free
yeah,
for Easter or for Thanksgiving. And I'll do that. So that's been really
that's my
helpful.
go-to as well, that
Hmm.
low to high bar.
Yeah,
You gotta see you
exactly.
gotta see what you're working with at the bottom first and make
Yeah,
your way up.
especially, as a grad student when you're just, you're printing on the school computer and you gotta take advantage of what's free. Um,
Yeah, you're like 10 cents for a page? It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, but in terms of like personalities and things like that, I definitely follow a few. In particular, one that I think of is Peachy Speechy. She makes like YouTube videos about early intervention and also about like how to produce sounds. So sometimes I can tell my kids are like wiggling in their seats. They're kind of getting sick of me telling them, "All right, keep your tongue down." So I'll throw on a video for a few
Mm,
seconds and they get so excited. It's like when you're watching like Dora or Blue's Clues and they ask you a question.
yeah.
So if it's for like a minute, I'll put it on and we'll practice. So I use it for myself to kind of learn how I can use strategies like she does, but then also I show it to the kids occasionally.
That's a good tool for sure to have in your back pocket. Gets the kids going.
Mhm.
How do you navigate burnout? Because I know you're earlier in your career, so maybe you haven't experienced of the feeling of burnout yet, although, grad school is very demanding. So maybe you have, but if you have encountered those feelings of burnout, how do you sort of deal with that as a fully licensed SLP now?
Yeah, I definitely think I felt it. I know as my career goes on, it's just gonna continue to happen, but it comes in waves. So what's nice about working in the school setting is that you do have breaks and things to look forward to. So I always keep that in mind. But in terms of actually managing it, I think setting boundaries is a really big thing. Everything is on my phone. All of the parents have my numbers. My email goes to my phone and things like that. And I had to kind of learn that, if a parent is texting me Saturday night, well, I wouldn't expect them to respond to me, so they can't expect me to respond to them. So I actually made like a setting on my phone where like I mute a certain group of all my kids and things like that
Mm.
because it was so tempting. If somebody has a quick question, yeah, I want to answer, but I'm having dinner or things like that. And people have busy schedules, so I consider that too. Sometimes the parents aren't available until the afternoon and things, but you have to set your own rules. I'm available between this time and this time. And if, you really can't work before or after, that's okay. It's okay to set those boundaries.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense because you're an SLP. You're not like an on-call 24/7 doctor where you're answering texts at 2 a.m. and you got to just hop out of bed and you know be at the office within 20 minutes. Like you have to set boundaries and leave time for yourself to recharge and sort of get back into the flow of things.
Exactly, because I just think even if it's not an important question or if I get an email, from the company, it might not be urgent, but just having it pop up on your phone, while you're putting your head down to go to sleep, it's kind of like it feels like that
Mm,
urgency. So kind of like letting that
yeah.
go is important.
Yeah. So to end off, we do have a decent amount of, I would say, college students, maybe like 20 to 25-year-old people that seem to listen to the podcast that are either already in the SLP field or maybe thinking about becoming an SLP. If there's someone in that position that is, let's say, a freshman or sophomore in college, they're thinking about declaring a major and going towards the SLP route, what sort of insights or advice would you have for someone that's kind of at that fork in the road?
I would say to definitely keep considering speech. I love it. Like it's not only my career, but it's my passion. And I think that you really have to see how dedicated you are to it. I'm not saying that your entire life has to revolve around speech, but I think you should really consider if your heart's really in it. Is it something that you're willing to, are you passionate about? Do you think you're willing to put all of the work in for grad school and the money in for grad school? And the time because you're gonna have to kind of to advance in your career, like, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices, to, do well in grad school and to get paperwork in on time and things like that, and I'm not saying to let it cross the line, into your personal life, but I think you have to consider, are you willing to really put your head down and work to achieve becoming an SLP?